Today we're gonna do an everyday makeup look on Julie. I wanna be able to take you from start to finish of just how to make a really pretty face that you can wear no matter what you're doing every single day. These are gonna be all the basics that you're gonna build every other makeup skill on top of. We're gonna begin with Julie's face. What I'm gonna start with is the primer from Too Faced. It's called Primed and Poreless. I like to start with a primer because it does just even out your texture on your face, gives your foundation something more to stick to. It's just gonna help you have a real flawless finish to whatever kind of coverage we put on top of it. I have already moisturized and added eye cream to Julie. You wanna do that and give it a minute to sit in just so your skin's good and plump and ready to go for the makeup we're gonna put on top of it. I'm gonna use a brush to put on the primer. At home, you can use your fingers, whatever's more comfortable, just to work it into the skin, and you're gonna start to see your pores disappear, just the texture even out as we get ready to put the makeup on top. This is a great product really for even if you don't have time to do all of your makeup, but you're gonna go to the store real quick or something like that. It just evens out the texture of your skin and it gives you just a little more perfect of a look, like you were just kind of born with really great skin. The next thing I'm gonna use is the Beauty Balm from Too Faced. I love a Beauty Balm because it gives you a little bit of coverage, just enough to give you that really perfect look, but without being a bunch of cakey makeup. It's gonna be real natural looking. It's almost like a tinted moisturizer, but a bump more coverage in it. It does have a little bit of a primer built into it, so if you're not somebody who needs a little extra help with your texture of your skin, it may be enough for you. The next step we're gonna do now that we've got our foundation in place is to go in with concealer. I do like to do this after foundation in general, just so you're not moving it around after you've got it placed. Because once we get our concealer placed where we want to, if you go back with foundation, you're just gonna wipe it off. So we're gonna go back in now and put it exactly where we want it. I'm using the Absolutely Flawless concealer from Too Faced. I like it because it's got a creamy liquidy consistency, but it still has a lot of coverage. So it's easy to blend. It's gonna cover what you want it to cover, and it's not gonna have a habit of getting in your creases and wrinkles. All the little fine lines that we all have under our eyes. And I'm just gonna start patting this right under her eye. What we're also gonna do while we're placing our concealer is almost make a triangle. So we're coming across under the eye, and then we'll also kind of come down, and we're almost making just a triangle right here under the eye. And that area is what you want good and brightened up. That's where we have a lot of redness. That's all the area that's gonna really make you look more awake and bright. But you just want it blended in really well so that you don't have any lines between your concealer and your foundation. I'm gonna bring it on up into the corner, make sure we're good and highlighted. After I've got it in, I just kind of go back and press with my finger just to make sure that it's all good and placed well. Make sure we have no lines here or underneath the eye. The other place I like to go with concealer is around the nose. As females, it's almost unavoidable not to get red around your nose just because of hormones. So I like to go around there. Also like to go around the corner of the mouth. And to do all this, I've been working off of one teeny tiny little bead of concealer on the back of my hand. It really goes a long way when you work with this formula of concealer. And then we'll go back and pop any little red spots you do have, any blemishes if you have them, anything that you have that really bothers you and just needs a little extra concealing. I'm gonna hit her chin because there's a little bit of redness. Just making sure everything's good and blended out. And then between her eyebrows, there's a little redness. The next thing you're gonna wanna do is go back and set your foundation with a powder. I like to do this just so it doesn't move, so it's not creasing ever. Everybody's main goal is to have their makeup last all day long. What's the point in going through all the steps if it's gonna come off halfway through? So I like to set it. Julie does have drier skin, so if you have drier skin, it's not gonna be necessary to powder your whole entire face if you don't want to. But what we are definitely going to do is powder under her eyes and in that triangle we made with just a little extra coverage to make sure that your concealer doesn't go anywhere. We don't want it creasing up throughout the day. So just gonna powder through her T-zone type of area just to give her a little extra staying power. And this is just a translucent powder I'm using. This is the Primed and Poreless powder from Too Faced. I love it because it's not gonna add any more coverage. It's just gonna add a little bit of staying power, another effect like the primer would do in evening out texture and making it all smooth and sealed in. The next thing we're gonna do is add some color back into our face. After you've gone through with your foundation and your concealer and your powder, it's created this pretty flawless face, but it's also flattened out the dimension that naturally comes in our face. So we have to add that back in by using bronzers and blushes. So what I'm gonna start with is a bronzer. This is a Too Faced bronzer called Milk Chocolate. I really love this bronzer because it's a really natural color. It's matte, so you're not adding extra shine. But what you're gonna wanna do with the bronzer is basically just dust it around the outside portion of your face. Then we're gonna also hit the higher planes that the sun would naturally bronze. So I'm gonna go almost in just the shape of an E around her forehead, under the cheekbones, and then we'll come back around under the jawline. Making sure to get in that ear so it doesn't look out of place or like we plastered on some color. The trick to makeup in every way is blending and adding layers. So you're gonna wanna start with a little bit, be very light-handed, and then just go back and add more as you need it. You don't want a blob of bronzer that you can't get rid of. I also like to bring my bronzer on down into my neck so that we're not making anything that's two different colors, but that it's all blended together real nicely. Now we're gonna move on to the eyes. What we're gonna be using today is the Natural Eyeshadow Palette from Too Faced. What we're gonna start with first is priming the eyelid area with an eyeshadow primer. So I'm gonna use the Illuminating Eyeshadow Base from Bess in Cashmere. This is just a nice natural kind of color, just enough to make it a good fresh canvas. And you just want to put a little bit of this on each eye. This will be a good step for making sure that all the work you're about to put in actually stays all day long. You don't want it creasing or smudging off, but just to be able to stay and stay put. So for starting the eyeshadow, we're gonna begin with the color called Heaven in this Natural Eyeshadow Palette from Too Faced. What I love about these palettes is that the colors that are the most natural that you're gonna end up using the most of, they're gigantic. And so you don't end up with those gone and then tons of the little dark ones left. So this is perfect. We're just gonna start with this color and put it all over the lid. And I'm just using kind of a flat brush, just anything that's gonna get it all over. The next step is to do your crease. I'm gonna use the color called Velvet Revolver in the same palette, but I'm gonna use a fluffier brush. These brushes are both in the Too Faced eyeshadow brush kit. It's real easy, all set up for you. But what the trick is with your crease is going to be to keep moving, basically. You're gonna wanna go in circles and then an overall windshield wiper motion. And that's what's gonna give you that more airbrushed look to where you don't end up with little blobs or stripes of color on your eye. Again, makeup's all about layering, so you wanna go on with a little bit and then add more as you need it. You don't wanna get too much or then it's really hard to correct. When we go in with the eyeshadow brush, I always start on the corner of the eye because the most eyeshadow is gonna be on the brush at that point. And if you end up with a blob of it, that's the perfect place for it because you're gonna blend it out. So I'm just going in circles. Also, by starting out here and moving inside, by the time you get onto the inside corner, it's just the leftovers that are on your brush. And so you're never gonna end up way too dark in there and closing up your eye, making it look dark or smaller. Next, we're gonna go in with a darker color just to add some more dimension in the corners of the eye. I'm gonna use a smaller brush so that I can put this shadow exactly where I want it. I'm gonna go in with this Cocoa Puff shadow. It is just a more chocolatey kind of brown that we're just gonna place in the corners. Just gonna start on that outside corner. You're almost gonna draw a little V out there, just a little into the lash line and a little bit up into the crease. And as you can see, when you start, it's pretty messy, but that's the good in your fluffy brush. You're just gonna go back. You don't need to add any more shadow, but you're just gonna go back and spin over it, and it just blends everything all together. The benefit of the little brush is that had we gone in with this brush first thing, this color would be everywhere, but I was able to put it exactly where I wanted it to be. So you're just kind of filling in this outside corner of the eye and then on up into the crease. The more you spin, the more it'll blend out. The last step with the shadow is that I'm gonna go back and add a little bit of a highlight to the top of the eye and on the inside corner just to brighten it up and make our eyes pop a little more. The first shadow I put on was a matte shade, so I'm gonna go back and add a little bit of shimmer using the Silk Teddy shade in the middle. I'm just gonna go right underneath her brow. I'm also gonna pop it right inside this corner, all the way down to where it connects up. It's just gonna freshen up that inside. The next step in your eye makeup is gonna be your eyeliner. The point eyeliner is basically to make your eyelashes look extra thick and extra dark and just real voluptuous. So the main point with your eyeliner is gonna be to make sure you don't leave any skin between your lashes and your liner. So make sure you get all the way down there. So the easiest way to make that happen is to start almost by coloring on your lashes. Especially if you're like Julie and have really light colored lashes, it's gonna go ahead and get that bottom portion of the hairs so that it's even easier to get your mascara done. It's easy to press all the way down there and get into your lashes. As you can see, you can work it into a line. You don't have to be able to draw one straight line all the way across. Now that we've done our eyeliner, just before we go in with our mascara, I'm gonna go underneath her bottom lashes and just go back in with the Cocoa Puff. So that way we can get a really soft line, but still have a border under there. But the more you wiggle at the base and then pull up, the better they're gonna separate. Just wanna get a good couple of coats on there. You're gonna wanna grab your bottom lashes with mascara as well, but just be careful how thick it gets because you don't wanna start looking spidery or clumpy down there. It's really easy to do. You just want enough to where they show up well. Now the last step we're gonna do to wrap up the eyes and really frame in the face is the brows. I think the brows are probably the most ignored feature of people's faces. Most people either have never tried to fill in their brows or they just don't or something, and it's the most ignored thing, but it's gonna make the most difference in your look. Especially if you have lighter hair like Julie does, it makes your brows virtually disappear. Mine are the same way. If I don't color my brows, I look crazy. So she's got a really pretty face right now. Her eyes look really pretty, but you'll have to see the difference when we color in her brows. What I'm gonna use is the Blond-ey pencil from Too Faced. What's cool about them is they've got a little spoolie built right in the bottom of the pencil, and that's gonna be great for brushing back through whenever you make your strokes in the brow, just to make them look more natural and brushes it all back in. So we're gonna start with the pencil. I usually start kind of halfway through the brow because you don't want to get too heavy-handed right up here, and you wanna make sure it tapers off in the back. So that's kind of the best place to start. The rule for brows is that if you were to put a pencil up against your nose and match it up with the corner of your eye, that's where your brow is going to need to start. And then again at the end, that's where it's going to need to finish. So if your brows go too far or not quite to those points, you're going to want to correct them with either tweezing or filling in. We just follow that bottom line and get us a good starting point. And then we'll go back and fill in the top. And you're gonna be lighter handed and lighter handed the farther you get into the middle. And then we'll go back in with our spoolie and brush it out and see where we are. You can see what a difference it made just adding the one brow versus the other side where it's still kind of just floating out there. The brow really defined and framed in the eye makeup we've done. Our last step is gonna be to pop on a lip color just to tie it all together. I'm gonna use Spice Spice Baby from Too Faced. Just give you a real natural, pretty pink. Keeping with our natural everyday look, it's just gonna be real fleshy, but give you that boost of color. I'm gonna top it off with some lip gloss from Edward Bess and Lover's Desire just to add some shine. I hope you've enjoyed learning today about how to get a great everyday makeup look. If you want a look that's more tailored specifically for you, I would love to meet with you here at Petro Cosmetic Surgery in Tivoli Medical Spa. You can either call the spa or email me at jen@petromd.com. All the products I used today on Julie, as well as our contact information, will be posted below. We would love to hear from you.